Prime Minister Mark Carney has appointed a new advisory committee he hopes will help develop strategies for how Canada should approach its economic relationship with the U.S. These new advisors are experts from a variety of industries with diverse political backgrounds, including Erin O'Toole, the former leader of the federal Conservative Party who served as MP for Durham. He joins us now to talk about this new advisory committee. Thanks so much for your time, Mr. O'Toole.
Good morning.
Your thoughts on this very diverse committee Prime Minister Mark Carney assembled, and your reaction when you were approached with the idea?
Well, I was honored to be asked. Clearly, I joined the military at 18, so I think serving your country is admirable. And I worked in politics. I worked in the private sector. I served alongside the Americans, so I know how important the relationship is to our economy, to our security. And I got some insights from the first round of NAFTA negotiations. I was the Conservative critic before becoming leader. So I appreciated being asked. I think the Prime Minister has assembled a really good cross-section of men and women. And this is so fundamental to the prosperity of Canada that I think we do need a Team Canada approach. That's why I told them I wanted to tell Pierre Poilievre and the caucus mates that I had to make sure that this wasn't seen as a surprise, but more of a all-hands-on-deck approach to the negotiations.
Now, speaking of Mr. Poilievre, he said it's great that you've been appointed to this committee, but that the Prime Minister needs to take more concrete action. Will this committee be enough to help the Prime Minister navigate a fragile relationship with our closest ally, especially as we get ready to negotiate a new Canada-U.S.-Mexico agreement in July?
I think the Prime Minister has a very good handle on international business negotiations. And I do think, compared to Prime Minister Trudeau, Prime Minister Carney really has reset the tone of relations between Canada and the U.S. We're being a lot more independent. We're looking to diversify. We want a good deal with the Americans, but we also want to show strength. So I think Prime Minister Carney has shown that. He does have to meet the expectations Canadians have upon him. So I do think Pierre and the Conservatives are doing their job in our democracy, holding him to account to commitments he's made. But bringing in these advisors, we're there just to help, just to provide some perspective, I think is a sign that the Prime Minister is going in for a good deal for the country, and I want to help in whatever way I can.
And if I'm not mistaken, the committee will meet for the first time on Monday. What can we expect from this first meeting?
I'm assuming that we'll get a bit of an update on where we are in some of the negotiations, some of the challenging points or the rub points in negotiations. And then I'm sure each of the new committee members will share their perspective. We've got people from the resource sector, from financial services, from manufacturing, from entertainment and culture. I think it will be a good opportunity to see where our strengths are for negotiations and where we have to perhaps come up with some smart policies to see if we can get the Americans to agree.
And is there a common goal that this committee is going to be working toward?
Common goal, I think, would be to reduce the tariffs, eliminate the tariffs or reduce them to a mark that they're not hurting our manufacturers. We've got to look at how we balance off the dominance of the U.S. tech giants in everything from entertainment and social media right through to AI and cloud. Media has been struggling under this new paradigm. So I think there's a lot of the traditional irritants like softwood lumber, supply management, these sorts of things that the Americans always try and rattle our cage on. But the economy is also changing digitally. There's more tariffs, more uncertainty worldwide. So even as Canada is doing this, I think Prime Minister Carney's efforts to diversify and build more Canadian self-reliance we need to do, even if we get a deal with the Americans. So I think it's a critical time for our country, and I'm glad he's put an all hands on deck approach to Team Canada.
Now, before we let you go, if you can just talk to us about the importance of people coming from different political backgrounds to work on this together.
Well, I'm very fortunate that my former colleague Lisa Raitt is on this with me. I also know Jean Charest, the former Premier of Quebec. We've got the former Premier of Nunavut, Ralph Goodale, who was a prominent Liberal cabinet minister that I used to get into good debates with in the House of Commons, but always had great respect for. So there's political diversity here. There's diversity in terms of geography in our country and in industry sectors. And I think there may even be an addition or two to the committee to round out certain sectors that need to have their voice at the table. So I think what the Prime Minister has done is a very smart idea, and we'll be working with Minister LeBlanc, who has the lead on the negotiations.
We'll leave it there for today. We appreciate your insight. Former federal Conservative leader and member of the Prime Minister's new Economic Advisory Committee, Erin O'Toole, joining us. Thanks again.